name's Derek, and I'm an American that's traveled a lot outside of the U.S. And one thing that I'm sure any traveler that's either come to or from the U.S. realizes is how difficult it can be to switch between different measurement units. Any American going to basically any other country needs to use the metric system, and anyone that comes to the U.S. needs to deal with the Imperial system that we use here. I'm not really trying to make a judgment on which is better, makes more sense, whatever. I think the metric system makes more sense, but I feel the Imperial system better because that's what I grew up with. Anyway, I wanted to really make this video. My girlfriend's coming to visit the US for the first time in a month, and she's having a hard time kind of grasping the system. And I'd spent like 30 minutes looking around online trying to figure out if I could find a video that would really just show foreigners a good conversion table or an easy way to try and convert between these systems. But the issue was that I couldn't really find this. Everything that I found was either looking at it from a really like academic and mathematical perspective, or it was just making fun of the Imperial system, which I get both, but that's not what this is for. What I'm trying to do here is really create something that plays into, I guess, being conversational with measurements when you're abroad. So you understand the difference between fluid ounces and milliliters, so you can order a beer and know how much you're getting. Or you understand what somebody's height is, or you can tell someone what the weight of your dog is, or anything like that, and actually convert to it pretty quickly. And it may not be perfectly accurate, but for conversational purposes, it'll be fine. Alright, so let's get started with some length and distance. For length and distance, I'm really going to focus here on height measurements and speed measurements, because I think those are the two that most commonly come up in conversation. For Imperial system, we use inches, feet, yards, miles, and miles per hour, and then the metric system is going to use like centimeters, meters, kilometers, etc. So again, this isn't academically exact or accurate in regards to numbers, but for conversational purposes, again, they'll work. So 1 inch is about 2.5 centimeters, and 1 foot is roughly 30 centimeters. So this can really come in handy when approximating height. Also, 1 yard and 1 meter are very similar. This one's a little bit off because 1 meter is actually about 39 inches, but if I'm going to try and tell someone that something's 100 meters up in front of me versus 100 yards up in front of me, no one's really ever going to tell a difference. And then 1 mile is equal to 1.6 kilometers. So that one might take a little bit more effort, but I'm sure you'll be able to figure it out. So just to kind of give some milestone main measurements that you could use and reference for height. A very short person, let's say 5 feet tall, would be about 152 centimeters. Maybe a more normal, like maybe a shorter guy, more normal sized woman, 168 centimeters is 5.5 feet, 5 feet 6 inches. Remember, there's 12 inches in 1 foot, so 6 inches is half a foot. 6 feet tall, maybe a normal tall man, is 183 centimeters. And then a quite tall man, let's say 6.5 feet, 6 feet 6 inches, is about 198 centimeters. And you'll hear a lot of people in metric systems talk about men that get to be 2 meters tall. Very, very tall people. In regards to speed, sometimes I just find myself talking about whether it's a 0 to 60 speed for a car. I like talking about cars, or maybe just speed limits and how fast you can go places. Because speed limits in the US are many times higher on our interstates than many other places I've been in the world. So the most common one is you would hear 0 to 60, like for a car's acceleration. So that's 0 to 100 kilometers an hour. That's very, very close in measurement. But really the one to use here is that if you use 30 miles an hour equals 50 kilometers an hour, you'll be able to figure it out pretty quick. So 30 miles an hour is 50 kilometers, 60 miles an hour is 100 kilometers, 90 miles an hour is 150 kilometers. I guess another milestone is here in the US, it's pretty common that, you know, our interstate's 75 mile an hour speed limit, maybe we go a few miles an hour above, so 80 miles an hour is about 130 kilometers an hour, just for that point of reference. Now, briefly, I'm going to touch on area. I think really the only things that I found that this comes into handy with is talking about either the like acreage or the amount of land that a house is on or something, as well as square footage or square meters, which is going to tell you, of course, how the size of a house or a condo or whatever you live in or have at home. So 2.5 acres is 1 hectare. Now, I know that that's usually a little bit more than what people are used to. So to break it down for you, a quarter acre, which is pretty common for a house in the United States, is going to end up being 1/10 of a hectare, or 0.1 hectares. So if you live on a small, like 1/8 acre lot, okay, that's 0.05 hectares. If you live on a larger or half acre lot, that's 0.2 hectares. You can go from there. Then for square feet to square meters, this one's not exact, like super close, but it's, again, good enough for conversation just so you get the idea of the size of something. But 10 square feet is about 1 square meter. So that's just an easy one to use. So if you have a 1,000 square foot apartment, that's about 100 square meters. So if you live in a very large house, let's say, that's 3,000 square feet, maybe about 300 square meters. If you live in a smaller studio that's maybe, 300-400 square feet, that's 30 or 40 square meters. So that one's a pretty quick and easy one. Again, not super exact, but it'll do the job for this. Alright, now time for what I think is probably the most infamous difference, and that's temperature. Converting between Celsius and Fahrenheit, I get it, is a huge pain in the ass either way. It's this convoluted formula. It's like 1.8 times the temperature plus 32 gives you the Fahrenheit. Like no one's ever going to be able to just do that in their head. So really what I did when I travel, and this works well for, again, just talking, it's not going to be super exact, maybe a few degrees off, but it'll get it by, is that to go from Fahrenheit to Celsius, just subtract 30 and divide it by 2. Then to flip it around, to go from Celsius to Fahrenheit, multiply it by 2 and then add 30. So again, not going to be perfect, but it's going to work for anything that's any reasonable temperature that you might be talking about. So I mean, for example, take 50 degrees, it actually works really well for. In this area is when it works the best. So 50 degrees Fahrenheit, okay, subtract 30 divided by 2, that's 10 degrees Celsius, which is actually exactly correct, which is fluke, not math. And then it starts to get a little bit off if you get too high or too low. Like if I take 90 degrees Fahrenheit minus 30 divided by 2, that's going to give me 30 degrees Celsius, but it's actually 32. If 100, same thing. Minus 30 divided by 2, that's 35 degrees Celsius. It's actually 38. For low temperatures, it's a little bit off as well. Take 10 degrees Fahrenheit minus 30 divided by 2, so that's negative 20, negative 10 degrees Celsius, and it's actually negative 12 degrees Celsius. But again, close enough for conversation. Just to give you a couple milestone temperatures that you can reference, the freezing point in Fahrenheit is 32 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's 0 degrees Celsius. The boiling point is 212 degrees Fahrenheit, 100 degrees Celsius. Room temperature, 72 degrees Fahrenheit, 22 degrees Celsius. And your body temperature, 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's 37 degrees Celsius. So, there you go. Alright, now I'm just going to touch on volume measurements. I find this really helpful, of course, just because if I want to go order a beer or a shot or a drink of whatever, I kind of want to have an idea how much I'm getting. So, in the US, it's kind of a pain because we have kind of two systems, because if you're out trying to buy a drink or buy a container or something, it's generally always going to be in fluid ounces. But if it's bigger, or if you're dealing with gas or anything like that, a lot of times we use the cups, pints, quarts, gallons method. So I'm going to touch a little bit on both there. So I guess for the drinks, for example, some of your most common ones are going to be in 12 fluid ounces. This is any normal sized bottle that you see, any can, all of these are always going to be 12 fluid ounces. And 12 fluid ounces is 355 milliliters. I know internationally I see a lot of things are sold in 333 milliliter. quantities. So if you see a bottle that's 333, that's going to be just under 12 ounces. Now in regards to drinks, I kind of paired some of these other ones up a little bit more based on, if you're ordering, a shot, wine, beer, etc. So here in the US, a normal shot is usually considered to be about 1.5 fluid ounces, which is about 45 milliliters. Internationally, I see 50 milliliters is pretty common. So if you're seeing that 45-50 milliliter range, that's about 1.5 ounces here in the US. 5 fluid ounces is the standard pour here for a glass of wine. If you convert that to milliliters, that's 148 milliliters, almost 150. Most times internationally, I see wine being served at 125 or 150 milliliters. Sometimes they say 100, but honestly, a lot of times they just look to pour what seems to me at least to be a normal glass of wine. So 12 fluid ounces, this is again where you would have your can of Coca-Cola or your bottle of beer or whatever. It's 355 milliliters again. And then 16 fluid ounces is an actual pint, and that's 473 milliliters. So almost half a liter is if you get a pint here. A little bit shy, but almost half. Then to go over to the gallons, the main things that we use gallons for, I guess, if you go by a gallon of milk or water or whatever, but it's really common for gas. That's how our gas is measured here, is by the gallon. And 1 gallon is actually 3.8 liters. But again, you can, in 1 gallon we have 4 quarts. So a lot of times it's not exact, but you can assume the 1 quart and 1 liter are comparable. So if you get a 1 liter beer, that's about a quart worth of beer. So there you go. And the last one is weight. So this is in the Imperial system, we use pounds. In the metric system, we use kilograms. There's not too easy of a way to really break this one down and make it super simple. But 1 kilogram is equal to 2.2 pounds. So depending on how if you can handle that, go ahead and do that in your head. Another way that you can do is, let's just say you want to go from kilograms to pounds. You can just multiply it by 2 and then maybe just say a number a little bit higher. So if you hear 50 kilograms times 2, that's 100. Let's call it 110. And that's actually, so that one actually is 110. So since I just also wanted to give some main kind of milestone weights, whether sometimes I talk about my dog or someone asks you how much you weigh or whatever it is, just some main weights that I kind of wrote down at random so you can have some reference points. 100 pounds, so this would maybe be like a child at some age or a very small woman, is 45 kilograms. 120 pounds is 54 kilograms. 150 pounds is 68 kilograms. 180 pounds, size of, say, a normal man, is 82 kilograms. And 200 pounds is 91 kilograms. So if a man's hitting 100 kilograms, that's about 220 pounds. You're starting to get to be a pretty big guy. Alright, so that's all I've got for you right now. If you have any questions, thoughts, whatever, just feel free to put it in the comments below and I'll try and respond as best I can. Have a good day.